Third proof, my name is Hong Han. Student number is 2121279. It's my great honor to have this opportunity to show my presentation here. My thesis is about the relationship between the welfare policy of employees and corporate sustainable development with the innovation as mediator. There are three parts of my paper. The first one is the introduction, the second one is the literature review, and the final one is the methodology. Next, I will explain every part of it clearly. First, let's look at the introduction part. 8 sections make up the introduction part. So let's begin with the background first. For the general background, we focus on the macro and the micro aspect. From the macro perspective, the high aging population and the low fertility cause the problems for labor shortage. To be more specifically, according to the National Bureau of Statistics of China, seniors account for 12.57% until the end of 2019, with a predicted increase to 14% in 2022. This shows that China is on the verge of becoming a deeply aging society. In the meantime, based on the United Nations Global Population Predictions 2019, fertility is declining, worsening the population structure disequilibrium. As for the micro aspect, the competition among enterprises is expressed as the competition among talents. To deal with aging population problems, the proper talent strategy is important for companies to keep long-term run. If a company adopts an effective talent strategy, employee stability and loyalty can be improved, talent loss and shortages can be avoided. Apart from this, the need of employees are diversified and the risk awareness is getting stronger. All of this call for the various welfare policy to meet the need of employees and improve their satisfactions in order to keep the competitive advantages. In word, no matter the corporate sustainability or the welfare policy, they have their special background, which present the necessity for this paper. Then I will introduce the DV mediator respectively. As for the DV background, corporate sustainability is a continuous process from a macro to micro perspectives, which also need a global cooperation. In the initial stage, the state sustainability is a macro concept that mainly focus on the harmonious interaction among environment, economy, and equity. In the year of 2015, the Sustainable Development Goals, which is the SDGs published by the United Nations Development Program, promoting the concept of sustainability into a narrow and clear scope. SDGs set up 17 global goals spanning 117 countries and districts. In the context of China, approximately 10% of Chinese companies have taken actions that contribute to SDGs. 38% are planning related initiatives, and about 89% of companies are aware of SDGs. It is clear that Chinese companies are beginning to recognize the importance of positive interaction between corporate sustainable society and the environment, and are incorporating and implementing it into their management actions. After these two stages, ESG was proposed. As we can see, it has emphasized the virtual role in micro aspects, namely corporate management. To sum up, corporate sustainability draws the wide attention to realize the harmony between human nature, companies, and the employees. As for the independent variables, employee benefits refer to non-direct financial remuneration and insurance products received by employees over a period of time. Under the distinctive Chinese social and cultural background, employee welfare can be divided into two elements: statutory and non-statutory welfare policy. The former is supervised by rules and regulations, and the latter concludes a wide range of welfare items, such as birth gifts, tourists, flexible holidays, and other types of supplementary insurances. Multiple researchers have demonstrated that the welfare policy is beneficial to the companies. These welfare items affect corporate management in various ways. Some of them believe that the benefits will motivate their employees and boost productivity. However, the welfare policy needs enough financial support and may lead to higher costs, sometimes even lead to the financial stress. Based on this controversial theoretical background, it's meaningful to explore the effects of welfare policy of employees. From the perspective of practice, the specific statistics of welfare policy are ranging from the report proposed by the Insurance Association of China and the Chinese Economic Information Service. In terms of employee welfare policy of Chinese corporate, total index is 17.4, and then the adequate index is the only one that's higher than the total index, which indicates that the various welfare policy did not meet the needs of the employees and the kinds of problems exist. As we can see from the bar chart, most of the company's welfare policy are concerned with incentives rather than equity. The efficiency index is lower than both satisfaction index and the total index, indicating a skepticism towards current welfare policy. Employees expected to gain well-rounded benefits. However, companies receive insufficient compensation for these benefits. Such imbalance between corporate and employees results in less positive responses, although the welfare policy begins with the good expectations. To the mediator background, multiple studies have demonstrated that the innovation is the power engine for gaining the competitive advantages, since it can benefit for the company as supplier, consumers, and through their new technologies, new processes, methods, services, and the business development strategies, and can also gain a certain value. In addition, innovation plays an important role in multiple dimensions on corporate long-term success. Increased input in treatment result in business innovation success, and the innovation is higher competitiveness. Therefore, innovation links the welfare policy and the corporate long-term run together. In line with the background mentioned above, the problem statement unfolds from two dimensions, theoretical and practical perspectives. Let's look at the problem statement from the theoretical aspect first. Let's look at the problem statement from the theoretical. For one thing, at present, the domestic academic circles have little research on staff welfare, and the definition of staff welfare scope and research is vague. China has basically realized the importance of social security, including various types of insurance, such as endowment insurance and medical insurance, and it has implemented compulsory social protection through the tax system. Compared with such statutory benefits, whereas non-statutory benefits, which is the narrow concept of welfare policy, have not attracted enough attention, and the different rules of mandatory and non-statutory benefit in foreign studies of corporate welfare have rarely been studied either. Although one studied the welfare items from both dimensions, but only explore the effects on innovation. Therefore, this has become a point of interest worth highlighting in this study. For another thing, some current welfare-related studies are limited to the studies of the relationship between corporate welfare and corporate financial performance, environmental performance, and innovation performance, respectively. But overall research is lacking. Even the research topic of studying welfare and corporate sustainability is limited to only one aspect of it, rather than forming a comprehensive and systematic study. In the context of former research, the purpose of this study is to investigate the relationship between welfare policy and the corporate sustainability in a comprehensive way as a more in-depth exploration, development, and summary of previous research. After analyzing the theoretical aspects, let's turn attention to the practical aspect. According to the analysis of companies' welfare strategy and the related statistics from the report by the Chinese government, there is current a gap between the companies and the employees' expectations and the satisfactions with the welfare program. And the design of the welfare program is unable to meet the actual needs of employees. On the one hand, the companies take the finance as a primary target, and the cost for employees' welfare have to be covered by the profit. As a result, companies set high standards for access to welfare, although they do have the welfare policy. On the other hand, the fierce competitive bring a corporate culture of wolfish in China, so that the terms 996, which is working from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week, and 007, working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on call, frequently used. However, paying for overwork is insufficient because employees attach importance to work-life balance, and the imbalance between companies and employees leads to the dissatisfaction of employees and ultimately a higher turnover rate. Further, long-term survival of a company relies on their talented employees, surroundings, and their financial situation. Therefore, the harmonious development of the companies, the environment, society, and the employees themselves through human resource management is a necessity. For the same reason, responsible development of corporate is a main topic of this paper. In according with the previous background and the problem statement, this paper tried to find out the direct relationship between welfare policy and corporate sustainability. What's more, the indirect effects of innovation also be discussed in this article. As a result, the paper proposed the following research questions. Look at the picture to show that. Consistent with the research questions, the research objectives are as follows. Next, I will introduce the scope of this study. First, the different categories of welfare policy should be paid attention. According to the definition mentioned before, mandatory welfare provides the basic protection for employees, while the non-statutory welfare has wide scope to provide sufficient measurements. And it's understandable that the mandatory welfare share the same principles, and the whereas non-statutory welfare is different among different companies, leading to diversified results. Under this context, this paper analyzes the effects of welfare policy by its narrow concept. Secondly, this paper takes Chinese listed companies as a research subject due to their significant role in the national macroeconomy. For one thing, the capital markets continued development has increased the size, structure, quality, and the efficiency of these listed corporations, which has become the backbone of companies' reform and economic progress. The total market value of 21.48 trillion yuan, China has risen from 13th to 3rd place in 2005. However, the scale of the total market value of listed company in China has risen up to 4,703 with 19 trillion yuan, more than 4 times compared with its counterparts 10 years ago. For another thing, the listed company attract talents and kinds of the employees to serve because of their huge scale and numbers, which is important for the labor market and the social stability. When it comes to the significance of this study, the paper also analyzes from the theoretical and the practical aspect. From the theoretical perspectives, first of all, this paper analyzes each of the 3 aspects of corporate sustainable development instead of one-sided analysis, which is a summary and also an extension of previous research. Secondly, the study categories welfare policies and lays the groundwork for further systematic corporate welfare research, allowing for more systematic and comprehensive corporate welfare research. Because of the different rules of two types of welfare policy, this paper adopts narrowly defined concept of welfare policy, supplementing the insufficient studies before. Last but not least, investigating the effectiveness of human resource management from the perspectives of corporate welfare and linking it to corporate sustainable development. However, previous studies draws little attention to the relationship between us. So this paper will fill up these gaps. As for the practical contributions of this paper, the article established a normative framework for implementing corporate welfare policies, clarifies the objectives, contents, and the benefits of such policies. In addition, the paper also makes welfare policy more targeted and better meet the needs of employees. Further, it also offers reasonable suggestions for companies' sustainable development, ensure that the company is able to achieve the goal of high quality and long-term company development. Considering of the inconsistency of company benefits and employee benefits, so this article provides new ideas for reasonable planning and personal work arrangements for sustainable enterprises development, which is a feasible way to promote the harmony and win-win situation of firms and employees. After diversity of the analysis above, this part concludes the definition of the key terms. To sum up, 5 chapters compose the study, and this presentation only focus on 3 parts of them: introduction, literature review, and the methodology. So this section, let's focus on the literature review. There are 4 parts make up for this section: overview of theories, underpinning theory, related research and hypothesis, theoretical framework of the research. There has been a surge of interest in corporate sustainable development. So let's look at the overview of theories first. Although the concept of sustainable development is in line with the trend of corporate and social development, the practices related to sustainability still have a long way to go. Companies find it challenging to incorporate the SDG targets into their daily operations because activities related to the SDGs must be profitable rather than volunteering and charity. Ensuring economic value creation may encourage companies to support the SDGs and employees who make fully understand of SDGs, turn the concept into the reality. To achieve sustainability, the environment, finance, and the employees' performance must all be considered. Apart from these factors, previous research have established that corporate innovation is also critical in determining an organization's long-term success. So that the innovation is called for long-term survival of firms also. As for the underpinning theories, the stakeholders theory is the main theory since it supports the corporate sustainability, welfare policy, as well as their relationship. According to the former research, a stakeholder is defined as any group or individual that can influence or is influenced by a company's achievement of its purpose. And the significant company stakeholders include shareholders, investors, employees, customers, and other related sectors and individuals. The company's survival and development are contingent on its ability to manage relationships with various stakeholders effectively. With the development of this theory, stakeholders' roles are different. Key stakeholders influence how a company functions, whereas secondary stakeholders participate in and influence the development of the firm. Numerous studies have found that the backing of influential stakeholders is necessary for a company's survival and long-term growth, as they control the majority of critical resources. As for this paper, employees are the basic and scarce resources of the corporate, determine the competitiveness compared with others. And therefore, it's necessary to give more weight to care about employees. Secondly, stakeholder theory is also critical for studying the relationship between corporate sustainability and employee well-being. Corporate sustainability must consider both internal and external influences. Internal pressure is mostly from employees and shareholders. External pressure from the government, media, and society should also be addressed. It is clearly that this theory supports all the dimensions of corporate sustainability, welfare policy, and show the relationship. If the stakeholders deal with the internal and the external dimensions successfully, it is possible for a company to achieve their sustainable goal. Multiple research have demonstrated that before. Under this consideration, fulfilled welfare policy increase employees' contentment and motivation towards organizations, hence ensuring low turnover rate of talent and skilled personnel, resulting in sustainable development of companies. Well, other theories explain different parts of the key terms. For instance, institutional theory support that corporate sustainability depends on maintaining a positive reputation to attract loyalty customers and perceive competitiveness. And agency theory explain why the financial risk exists. And Brain Human Resource Management points out that the welfare items can link the employees' behaviors to the corporate activities with great targets by improving their satisfactions and the commitment to the eco activities. Finally, Herzberg's two-factor theory consists of motivator and hygiene. The welfare policy reflects both of the hygiene and motivation factors, since it covers multiple methods, some of which meet the needs of basic living standards, while others emphasize the incentive aspects. The underpinning theory provides the foundations for the related research. Based on these theories, academics have conducted in-depth analysis and research in related fields. In line with the scope of corporate sustainability mentioned above, the corporate sustainability is composed of environmental sustainability, employees sustainability, and financial sustainability. For the environmental sustainability, it experiences three stages of development. The definition of WCSD, SDGs, and finally the ESG, which is proceed from macro to micro study. To be more specifically, in 1987, the World Commission on Economic Development introduced the term sustainability, described it as meeting the requirements of present without a detriment to future generations' ability to fulfill their own needs, including environment, economy, and equity, underlying the critical nature of maintaining a balance between the nature and the human life. And then United Nations Development Program adopted the sustainability goals in 2015. Countries and enterprises and citizens are required to collaborate in order to achieve the SDGs aimed by 2030. However, the term sustainable development used in WCED and SDGs is more macro-focused, and the goal of sustainable development alone is insufficient. As a component of the overall economic system, each company plays a critical role in achieving the goal of sustainable development due to the unique methods employed by companies. Corporate sustainability is widely measured in terms of 3 dimensions: environment, society, and governance, which is the definition of ESG. Other researchers proposing that economic and natural sustainability are tangible resources, whereas human capital is intangible. Other academics also studied the related context by using similar dimensions. Based on these studies, this article divided the corporate sustainable into 3 micro dimensions: environment, employee, and finance. Corporate welfare refers to all forms of supplemental compensation and services primarily in the form of non-monetary wages provided to the employees in order to improve the quality of their personal and family lives. The mandatory welfare policy refers to the government mandate benefits that must be paid following standard government regulations and payment standards. This type of welfare policy most commonly social security benefits and is not voluntary for companies. Non-statutory welfare, on the other hand, is flexible and optional as it is not mandated by law. Since the mandatory welfare is the same requirement for companies and the flexible non-statutory welfare leads to different outcomes. This paper focused on the non-statutory part, which is also the narrow concept of the welfare policy. Based on the definition mentioned above, this paper tried to explore the direct relationship between the welfare policy and the corporate sustainability. Firstly, the employee welfare with environment-friendly topics optimizes the use of scarce resources while promoting an essential source of employee satisfaction and environmentalism. The employee welfare policy and practices such as recruitment, training, compensations, and others have developed into a powerful tool for aligning employees' environmental strategies with organizational goals, resulting in long-term sustainable performance. According to the previous research, welfare policies prioritizing employee care and protection help align employees and corporate goals and make it easier to collaborate with businesses on environmentally sustainable goals. To sum up, employee welfare contributes to each employee's welfare of corporate environmental protection, thereby advancing the company's environmental sustainability goals. So that the hypothesis 1 is proposed. Employee-friendly policies have been shown to increase employee satisfaction and happiness at work. And some scholars also assert that employee welfare measures have a positive correlation with employees' mental and physical health, which has a direct effect on their efficiency and productivity. So the hypothesis 2 is set up. The idea that employee benefits are linked to financial performance is not novel. However, research on the relationship between benefits and the financial status has produced the inconsistent, controversial results. The optimistic view holds that improved employee benefits will result in superior financial performance and that maximizing shareholder value and add value to the market. Some scholars also point out that the companies that prioritize employee welfare achieve greater employee satisfaction and will also performing their peers in terms of long-term stock performance and will bring about additional cash flow. Well, the adverse effects of corporate welfare policies should not be overlooked, which is supported by the agency theory. Welfare measures increase the risk of unexpected stock price declines, which can be detrimental to investors and shareholders, particularly in labor-intensive businesses. While welfare may increase work intensity, there is no evidence that it will increase its shareholder wealth. Although the conflict conclusion exists in the financial performance, the benefits still have a broadened prospect in the long run, since they focus on human resources, which are targeted as the main factor for the sustainable development. Therefore, the superiority is over the inferior aspect. So, hypothesis 3 is supported. After the discussion about direct relationship, let's turn to the indirect relationship. Welfare items provide a safe and satisfactory environment for employees so that they could contribute to the innovation activities, including providing environment protection methods and higher performance. And satisfaction will lead to lower turnover rate. Therefore, the innovation is a bridge to link the welfare policy and the corporate sustainability. So we set up this indirect relationship, take the innovation as the mediator here. Here is the conclusion of the research framework, theories, and hypotheses. The part 3 mainly introduce the methodology here. After the sections of introduction and literature review, the section mainly concentrates on the methodology, including 5 subsections. Introduction of the methodology, research paradigm, sample selection, the science measurement of variables, and empirical models and analysis. The following subsections will be analysis respectively. For the introduction part, following the theoretical basis, this chapter illustrates the methodology, including sample selection, research design, and empirical analysis to build up a framework to explain the fundamental leakages. So just as the pictures show. As for the research paradigm, ontology is a term that refers to beliefs about nature of reality that influence how companies and the management are studied. These items include the different levels from organizational events to individual working and lives. Epistemology is concerned with assumptions about knowledge, what constitutes acceptable, effective, and legitimate knowledge, and how we communicate knowledge to others. It is relevant to your choice of methods as well as the advantages and weaknesses of the research findings. In view of the research content and the objectives, this paper will adopt the realism of ontology, positive epistemology, and quantitative methodology. Considering the different variables of our study, the data comes from 2 databases, namely SysMart databases and the Hexun databases. In accord with the former theoretical framework, the dependent variable includes environmental, employees, and the financial sustainability. Their samples are drawn from the SysMart database of Shanghai and Shenzhen. For the independent variables and the mediator, the data originate from the Hexun database with the same time span as the dependent variables. Samples are acquired by filtering and deleting missing or overlapping data from the same span of years, guaranteeing the data and the results to be accurate. This subsection will talk about the measurement of variables. For the development variables, the research focus on environmental performance as a proxy for the level of environmental sustainability. Several articles utilize the environmental investment as an indicator, ignoring the relevance of the consequences of environmental investment. To fill this gap, the paper takes environmental performance as a measurement of environmental sustainability. Financial sustainability is crucial for a company's long-term development. The total asset EVA rate is the ratio of a company's real EVA to its total asset, and it serves as a proxy for how well companies use assets to generate wealth. Some articles prove that the total asset EVA rate can reach 86.8% when anticipating publicly traded corporations' financial status for 2 years. In terms of the employees' sustainability, most of the journals concentrate on payment, opportunities, health, and safety. These articles emphasize providing sufficient welfare items to meet the need of employees, leading to a decrease in the turnover rate. Following the pioneer article's logical structure, it is understandable to measure the employees' sustainability by the indicator of employees' turnover rate. As for the independent variables, foreign scholars using KLD database to measure the welfare policy. However, this database does not conclude enough Chinese listed companies. So this paper adopts the Hexun database, which mainly collects data from Chinese listed companies. What's more, this database is similar to the KLD database and concludes different dimensions relevant to the employees' welfare. Based on the database and formal research, the welfare policy will be measured by the method of weighted average of Hexun database. In terms of the mediator effects of innovation, various academics explore the related fields by using patents. Some of them analyze the related contents by two types of patents, utility model and design patent applications. This paper will follow the formal research and adopt the same dimensions by using the natural logarithm of the total number of patents, including utility and design patents. Apart from this article controls the firm size, total number of employees, industrial type, cash flow, and the liability to avoid the influence of corporate characteristics. When it comes to the empirical model establishment on the basis of the related research, this paper establishes the empirical models as follows. First, we set up the direct model of a relationship between the welfare policy of employees and the corporate sustainable development. Just as the picture shows, Y represents the corporate sustainable development, including environment, employee, and financial sustainability, respectively, while I is the indicator of listed companies, and the T is the year. Epsilon is the error term. When we come to the mediated effect of innovation to test the indirect relationship, following the research method of Barry and Kenny, 1986, this article adopts the three passes method to test the mediated effect. Path A is to test the direct relationship, as has mentioned before, inventing how the welfare policy influences corporate sustainability. And part B shows the relationship between welfare policy and innovation. This step has been demonstrated in the part of hypothesis. And the part 3 puts the welfare and the innovation together to investigate how they affect corporate sustainable developments. After models establishment. When the models have been established successfully, it's time to analyze these models step by step. The analysis process includes 6 subsections: descriptive analysis, correlation analysis, model selections, regression analysis, median effect analysis, and finally robustness analysis. For the descriptive analysis, it is easy to describe statistics, including the number of observations, the mean, the maximum, the minimum of variables, as well as the standard of variance. Correlation analysis is an effective method for avoiding the problem of insufficient processing of the results produced by variable interaction. And then this article is short panel data with a time dimension shorter than the number of sections, and the 3 types of effects exist: fixed effect, mixed effect, and the random effect. The F-test is used to choose the mixed regression and the fixed effect models, while the Hausman test compares the fixed effect and the random effects models. If the F-test p-values are significant, then the initial hypothesis is rejected, indicating that the short panel data used in this article have fixed effects. The Hausman test is then used to evaluate the fixed effect and the random effect models. If the p-value is significant, the original hypothesis is also rejected, indicating that the paper is appropriate for creating a fixed effect model. The researcher utilizes a certain regression method depending on the model type. In order to measure the mediated effect of innovation, this step follows the logical structure of the models before and test the coefficients respectively. Step 1, measure the coefficient of welfare policy of the path A. And step 2, measure the coefficient of welfare policy of the path B. The step 3, measure the coefficient of welfare policy and the innovation of the path C. If the coefficients are significant and the coefficient of welfare policy and innovation are significant at the same time, then the median effect exists. Further, if coefficient of welfare policy is not significant, then the total mediating effect exists. To increase the credibility of the empirical results, the section 6 assesses their robustness, replacing the independent variables using the same analytical procedure. The dependent and control variables are consistent with the prior test and employing the same regression technique as before. If the robustness analysis reach the same outcomes, then the empirical analysis is reliable. So that is the end of my presentation. Thanks for your time and listening, and I'm appreciate any suggestions on my thesis. Thank you so much. That's all.